Hey, welcome to an episode of the Whiskey Crusaders. We are here now for doing our very first Mezcal stream, so I'm super excited to have this here. Of course, Del Maguey's who's with us, joining us today. So be lots of fun learning all about Mezcal and all these fun things. And I'm going to turn over to you because they don't want to hear from me. They want to hear from you. So tell them about your background and who you are and how you got involved with this brand and all this good fun stuff.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, man. And
Absolutely.
Thanks for having Del Maguey. I came in here, and the first thing I said was how incredible this room looks in person. And for those who like things in very straight lines, very visually appealing. So I'm Feodore Forte. I am a brand ambassador for Pernod Ricard's agave portfolio. So that obviously includes Mezcal. And one of the brands we're going to be talking about is Del Maguey today. So, but to get a little bit of information about who I am,
Yes.
I am a transplant to the DFW, Texas area, but I've been here
a long time,
over 25 years.
Okay,
so folks say
time.
you're Texan now.
Yeah, where did you originally come from?
So Michigan through
geez.
Puerto Rico.
Okay, that's a unique route to get here.
Yeah, mom's from Puerto Rico, dad's from Michigan.
Okay, makes sense.
They met. There were stars. They got married.
They do those things.
Then we moved to Michigan. Well, they moved. Then I was born.
What a drastic change to go to Michigan from Puerto Rico.
The funniest story is when my grandma and my mom saw snow for the first time. That's a really funny story. Two Caribbean women.
That's hilarious.
Saying falling snow, and they're like, "This is," and they ran out like with their short sleeve shirts and everything. Like, this is incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Hey, if you've never seen it, what's that white crap on the ground?
Exactly. And then you soon learn that it is not fun to shovel snow. That's what I learned later on.
Absolutely not.
But yeah, so came to Dallas. I got back from a trip to New York where, 22-year-old me didn't know anything about budgeting and had spent all my money. So there was a sign in a pizza shop window saying help wanted. And I maybe embellished my skill set a bit to get on the job. And thankfully they saw that I was showing up on time. I was ready to hustle, and they gracefully let me stay.
Huge
plus. And I started to learn, this huge world of hospitality from sales point of perspective, because my parents super hospitable. We always had people staying with us. Sure. We always had folks coming over for lunch, dinner, etc. But to see it working as a unit, other team members, that was completely new to me.
Very cool.
And I remember the first time a guy asked me for a Manhattan, and I didn't know what that was. Okay. Outside of the city that had all my dollars.
Yeah, that's not the answer.
And he's like, no, okay, grab that bottle of whiskey right there. All right, this is going to be a bottle that says sweet vermouth in the fridge. All right, now take that bottle and do this in it a few times. Now stir it up.
Oh, that's too
Now put a cherry in there. And that was it. He literally walked me through step to make my first cocktail, and I saw how much he was enjoying it.
Okay.
And that was cool. I said, man, that's cool, man.
That is cool.
And so that opened my mind to the world of cocktails. And so the next place I worked with some super talented folks, and they saw I was genuinely interested. So the first thing they said was read this, and this.
Cool.
And then come back and talk to us. And so I did.
Awesome.
And then it was very much a wax on, wax off.
There you go.
Sort of a thing.
Off to the races.
And a lot of trial and error.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of error. Like one time I thought I could save time.
Yeah.
Making 3 cocktails at a time by including the soda that I would add at the end in the cocktail shaker.
Oh, no.
So it's Saturday night around 8:15 or so.
Ooh.
We're 3 deep in the well, and I got this genius idea to add the club soda. And back when Topo Chico was really bubbly.
Oh, gosh.
Glug, 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 and the shaker tin. Slam the top. I got to 3 shakes. It was 1, 2, and on the third, the top shot off.
Oh, gosh.
And thankfully,
didn't hit anybody, thank God.
Thankfully, it didn't hit anyone.
Oh,
and the only thing that was in the cocktail shaker besides booze was muddled blackberry and oranges and mint, which, as we know, things that go up.
Yeah, now you're covered in
come back down. So all I had time to do was this
Oh, jeez.
and restart over, and I got to wear my mistake.
At least
the
you
rest of the
smelled
night.
pretty.
Yeah. Very organic experience.
Yeah.
That evening. The
jeez.
garden.
Yeah.
So
I can imagine.
yeah. So learn that not to do that anymore.
Yeah, I think we've all learned that one, unfortunately, the hard way.
Yeah. And so thankfully, step by step, going from place to place, I was able to learn a little bit from each of the folks that were there that knew way more than I knew. And thankfully, they were super patient with me. As green as I was as green as these bottles.
Okay. They are definitely very green.
And just along the way, I fell in love with mezcal because of how flavorful it is, but also the story.
That is half the fun with
spirits
in general is the story
that resides behind it. So that's how it led to me. So now, stepping away from bartending, there was a great opportunity that opened up with this team.
Okay.
And coming on board, and it's been off to the races ever since.
How long have you worked for them for?
So started in September.
Okay.
There was the relaunch of their advocacy program as a whole.
Okay.
So it was lots of folks in my lane that are representing various bottles and brands.
Awesome.
From our respective portfolios.
You have a great portfolio to work for, which is a good thing.
Well, it always helps if you already like to drink.
It helps
what you're going to be
what
you're going to be talking about.
If you're not if a certain thing, it's like we have one product and it sells a lot, but I don't want to drink that every day the rest of my life.
Right. Good. And this one, whether it's a night out or a nightcap, there's so much variations in flavor and style. Even like just within this brand itself, that there's never really a boring moment.
Perfect.
I enjoy what I drink.
So what is mezcal for people that don't know what that is?
Yes. So mezcal, you think of mezcal as the parent category, right? So mezcal technically is any spirit that has been distilled from the agave plant.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, within those are variations. So the easiest way I feel for the folks that you engage with is to think of it like the parent category as whiskey.
Okay.
And then you have Scotch, you have bourbon, you have Irish, Japanese. It's all whiskey, but in those names, it's very different.
Right.
So all bourbons are whiskeys, but not all whiskeys are bourbons.
Right.
So that's very much how you could look at the mezcal category.
Okay.
Because, for instance, tequila is a specific type of agave, only distilled from Blue Weber.
Okay.
It's from a certain region, Jalisco.
Okay.
So all of tequila is going to come from a certain region, and then within it you have the rules of production processes.
Okay. Very cool.
Whereas now you have mezcal only coming from certain states, generally more towards the south of Mexico. The majority of mezcal comes from Oaxaca.
Okay.
State of Oaxaca. If anyone is a fan of mole, like I am, then it is the Mecca. It is the place that you want to go. You want to drink mezcal. You want to eat mole. Good stuff.
All right.
And just really, really cool. Now, what makes mezcal different is the biodiversity.
Okay.
Because there's 40 different agaves that can be made.
Oh, wow. All right.
And be considered mezcal.
Okay.
Now, what's really cool with that, when you compare them with bourbon, maybe the most variation that you could have in a bourbon is maybe 3 different grains.
Generally,
right?
Yeah.
Bourbon, rye, corn, rye, and wheat. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, little variations in there, different cereals. But you're talking about things that are completely separate genetically.
Yes, very
that
much so.
Within themselves each have their own flavor profiles.
Right.
Yeah, so that's it. So I like to consider it like the boiled potato analogy versus roasted potato. So boiled potato steamed is how you would cook for tequila. Okay. With mezcal, they're going to be roasted, typically underground.
Interesting. So how do you just like a pit essentially?
Yeah.
And how long do you roast underground for?
So each producer has what they feel is the best time to go.
Okay.
So you have a lot of times where typically it's going to be a conical pit in the ground.
Okay.
You have little methods where maybe that's a hole dug in a granite hillside. Covered up, but typically it's going to be a hole dug in the ground, conical pit where you're going to put your fuel source. So you're going to make a fire. A lot of times it's mesquite wood is used, but they're going to use the wood that is around.
Whatever's local.
Their palenque, which would be like their distillery.
Okay.
You get a nice fire high. You make those charcoal briquettes.
Okay.
Now, some, after they harvest the agaves, bring them out of the ground. Some can be, weigh a lot. Some are small, but you'll chop those top green leaves off. You're going to chop off some of the green around because those lend to having bitter flavors.
Oh, okay.
Kind of like removing the sections like a banana peel to get to the banana.
Same. Okay.
And some just toss them in there, cover it up. Some will actually have a guy in the pit that catches them and they arrange them like Tetris.
My gosh.
Yeah,
Right?
so it's all due
it's all
to
over the
like,
place.
yeah, it's
Wow.
all over the place. Just dealing with, I feel that this is the best way to do it. Another guy says, well,
Sure.
no, I feel like this way.
Okay.
No right or wrong, just preference there.
All right.
They're going to cover that up and the roast is going to go for several days.
Oh, days.
So you're caramelizing over time, but that is where the smoky element comes from because since
Okay.
everything is compacted and covered as airtight as possible, the smoke remains. So you have to cook these agaves to caramelize the sugars within them, and then you can process.
So how close is that process to like peated scotch that you're kind of putting the kiln in there with the peat and heating up the barley? Similar conceptually to that?
Similar. Except with that one, where they're heating up the peat, it's happening very much in an open, more open environment where all of this is closed in.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's what. So when they're doing that, does the smoke just really concentrate and soak into the agave plant at that point, essentially?
Sometimes, and that's where the layering of those agaves come from, because some want a more even dispersion of the smoke.
Okay.
Whereas some say we just need our stuff cooked because the changes I'm going to do are going to happen afterwards in a different part of the production process.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess we should pour some, and then we should probably talk about.
Oh yeah.
This fun because I'm thirsty. So we got
okay. So this is the Puebla. So we are doing like Back to the Future, whereas we're starting today, like 3 years ago, to start talking about what happened as of March 14th this year, 30 years ago. We're 30-year brand this year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. I'll pour you a little bit here. So this is our Puebla expression.
Okay.
I love this expression because it is a testament to how we don't cut corners.
Okay.
So when the brand first got started, there was no such thing as artisanal mezcal in the U.S.
Oh, wow. All right.
Whatever you got, might compare it to that prohibition style bathtub gin.
Because I know like when I was like 20 years ago, like one mezcal, I was like, it was rough.
It was rough, sometimes it had that worm in the bottle.
Oh yeah, that's what I got. I was like, artisan was good. This is not good.
Yeah, it's rough. And so the founder, Ron Cooper, got a large sum of money for one of his artistic projects. He was a very accomplished artist from the Venice art and light movement, Venice Beach.
Okay, very cool.
And he had been displayed in various art museums in the world. Got a nice chunk of money, and he always wanted to go to Japan to do artwork out there.
Oh, all right.
And then all of a sudden, he now has the freedom to go anywhere he wants.
Very cool.
And he has this pull to go to Oaxaca. He couldn't explain it. He says, something's telling me to go there. I'm going to go there. And so he goes. He says, well, I'm going to work with the Zapotec indigenous folks.
Okay.
Zapotec artisans there. Let's create some cool stuff. This sounds amazing. He gets down there and he has dinner.
Okay.
Where he served some mezcal from the region.
Oh, okay.
And, he wasn't really looking forward to it because his previous experience was shared.
Yeah.
And he sips it and he's like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And as an artist himself, he's like, I'm tasting art.
Right.
So let's get our first taste here.
It's nice.
So this one, clean. So this one has been formulated for cocktails.
Okay.
But also it's really cool to introduce people to the mezcal category because of its nature and how much lighter in smoke profile it is.
Okay.
So this one is very much greener. I get, like lemongrass. I get some very almost semi-ripe banana.
Yeah, there's a lot of citrus in there.
Lots of citrus. Like orange peel, So this is really cool. I love this and sour cocktails. So if you're thinking like margarita, you're thinking even like a highball with like a splash of lime or lemon juice, your preference. This is very, very easy drinking, and that's why it's formulated. So to go back to where we left Ron off,
Okay.
he now has this desire to find out where this is from, and no one can tell him specifically. They're like, well, just take that road and you just keep going.
Just keep going.
And you just ask for donde está el mejor? Where's the best?
Okay.
Translated to English.
All right.
So that's all he had.
All right.
So he's driving on a dirt road that floods when it rains, when it heavily rains.
Sure.
And he took multiple trips because each trip he's going to villages, but they don't know what he's talking about, or they say you have to keep going. So after several trips coming back empty-handed, he finally gets stopped on the side of the road by a hunting party who's wondering who is this old guy in this beat-up pickup truck who clearly looks out of place.
Sure.
I don't know if you heard the name Cooper, but it is not Spanish.
No, that's generally not going to be Spanish.
Yeah.
Pretty confident now.
So he said, I tasted this delicious mezcal. Gentleman at the hunting party says, well, I have this mezcal like right here. So he pours him a taste, and it was the same one that was at the restaurant.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
And so he goes, oh, that's what he said. He said, this is the flavor I've been looking for. And that's how it all started. So where he first started, he's like, I'm going to make these beautiful blue vases.
Okay.
Because I'm an artist, but you all are liquid artists. So I would love to put your liquid art in my vases, and sell them as an installation piece. Okay. But what happened is he then realized that this is something so unique and so special that it deserved its own space to shine.
Okay.
And so he started going to village and discovered that different villages had different production techniques. What to me is the most interesting part about mezcal is how generational it is.
Okay.
Because Zapotec is not a written language; it's spoken.
Oh wow!
Now we've started working with different folks that like to translate, create an alphabet, so that we can start recording these folks' histories. But it's very much a spoken language. So you're talking about the only way information was getting relayed over hundreds, thousands of years was spoken word, including production methods. So I find that completely fascinating. That's something that intricate in science and art, like that.
No one wrote it down.
Yeah, is no one wrote it down because there was no way to write it down.
It didn't exist.
And you just by sharing those stories is how we get to enjoy this category today.
How long has mezcal been around? Like the actual,
So they have found fragments of clay pots. We're going to get into why those are important that were used in distillation, going back at least 1,000 years. But we do know that there was clay pot distillation being used before the Spanish galleons brought over those Filipino stills.
So
it's kind of where distillation picks up. Oh yeah, yeah. Before 1500, and the big boats were coming from Europe. There was stuff already going on.
Predates it predates whiskey by 500 years even at that point. Then that has to be some of the first distilled. I would think alcoholic spirits in general.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
I think it's completely fascinating. And again, there are no written records of this stuff, I just cannot let go of that fact. As someone who needs to write things down to remember, I have the ultimate respect for these people that handed down scientific information for generations. So what happened was this category now blows up, right? Because we were the first artisanal mezcal to get imported into the U.S.
Okay.
There was two that came in. It was Minero and Chichicapa.
Okay.
One artisanal, one ancestral. And style. We'll get into what those are.
That'll be my next question. What does that mean?
Yeah. And if you've ever been in a bar, you want good products, but at a certain point, you need to also have it be economical for serving a lot.
Absolutely.
So they said, man, we really need to do a cheaper version of this, but we don't want to sacrifice the quality or integrity.
Okay.
So that's how Classico came about, which is where we're going next.
All right.
But that's how Puebla came along, because demand started to outstrip our supply.
Sure.
And we were never going to water down our juice.
Thank God.
So we said, okay, well, we have a problem. So what they did was, instead of staying in Oaxaca, they went to Puebla,
Okay.
which is
How
next
far
door,
is- Okay.
the state next door, at the foothills of the Axocopan
Okay.
volcano, volcanic area there, so rich in minerality. And they created the same style palenque in an agave-rich area. So now we can produce more mezcal in a different area, still keep it sustainable while not cutting any corners.
Okay. Makes
Now
sense.
with this one is the only one that is going to be proofed down
Okay.
240, because the rest of them are bottled as they come off the still.
Oh wow.
So
he's
that's
casting-
that's why this one is really good
That's
in
fair.
approach, because it's at an alcohol point that most people are used to at 40%,
Sure.
but also makes it lighter in body to be
Okay.
enjoyed as someone new to the category for a citrus cocktail.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. It's very nice.
yeah.
This is my first time having any of these, so I'm excited.
Yeah. Okay,
and
man.
And I love to learn. So
So then you have the difference between artisanal and ancestral. So
Okay.
artisanal is going to be the ones that, made with Tahona stone. They're going to be hand crushed. So instead of instead of hand crushed, that's ancestral. Artisanal is going to be that. Copper pot stills are
Okay.
used in the distillation.
okay.
So, and you have some more modern methods that other brands use, and that kind of fits that category.
Okay.
Now, ancestral is where things are done the old-fashioned way.
Okay.
So you have these giant wooden bats. They're, almost as tall as you are. They would stand
The stomping.
feet flat,
Oh,
and they
yeah.
are dropping
Oh my
these
God.
bats to crush the agaves by hand.
How long does
And
that must take forever.
yeah. They're not
They're not in a
they're
hurry
not
though,
weak.
either. Yeah, I would
They're not
imagine
weak.
not. They're weak.
They have a strong handshake.
Yeah, I would imagine. so.
Yeah, and it's using clay pots that we were talking about earlier. So clay
Okay.
pots with bamboo tubing
Hmm.
to come out of the condenser.
Okay.
So all of these little aspects add little nuanced flavor notes just from the
Interesting.
production process in and of itself.
Okay.
Now, a really cool tasting note that comes that's kind of a telltale sign
Okay.
that something has been clay pot distilled is it has this very delicious, just creamy mouthfeel on the finish.
Interesting.
So you'll taste all sorts of things, but then you have that nice, soft, creamy finish,
Okay.
which is why that is my favorite style.
So it's kind of, I guess it'd be kind of like a worm tub is in Scotch.
Yeah.
Conceptual like that. Oh, this is really cool.
Yeah, I'm telling you, if you are a nerd like I am,
Yes. This.
or if you
we're
like to
super nerdy.
get into the nitty gritty, to me,
Oh yeah.
agave is the category for you, like by far. Not just from the biodiversity, from the culture, from the history, and then like down to the nitty gritty, like production methods.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
There's so many strings that you can pull and go down so many different rabbit holes.
Sounds like it.
Because I'm literally just trying to keep up, and I'm learning stuff every day.
Yeah. Every day.
And
You've been
every
doing
day
this for a while.
I add to what I know.
Okay.
I realize that there is a library full of things I have yet to even scratch the surface
That's
of.
true, which is wild.
Yeah. So that's Puebla.
I really like it. It's really good. It's a great place to start.
So then let's get to the Clásico.
What's the price point too? If somebody's looking for this.
Yeah, so this is going to be in the low 30s.
Yeah, so it's super reasonable.
In DFW. Now,
I
know that.
I
know
realize
that-
it's relative,
yeah.
like New York or
Right.
California. I'm sure. It's
But
more
right
expensive,
now,
whatever.
when I was in a couple liquor stores and I saw it, yeah, they run, mid to low 30s.
Okay, so super reasonable.
So very, very approachable,
Okay.
especially if, because sometimes, you're in the thing, you have your hard-earned money. You don't want to
Absolutely.
experiment with something you
Right.
may not like
Don't like it,
that's,
yeah.
a little bit more pricey.
That's where we come in. So he's going to come back and do a masterclass of this, which we're super excited about.
Yeah.
You can try all these for a very reasonable price.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay, so what's the
So
difference
now,
in this one?
now this one is the same producer,
Okay.
but this one is coming from Oaxaca.
Okay.
So now this one has been proofed. So as you and your folks know, all about the head, heart, tails cuts
Right.
of distillation. For those that don't know, I like to describe it. The easiest way is like a coffee maker. where, drip coffee makers. So when you turn it on, that first like jet black part, that would be your heads. That's like the strongest flavor, some of the more bitter agents. And then you get to that sweet spot where it's just perfectly blended coffee and water. And then you have the remnants, that more watery looking bit at the end. That's still coffee, but not as concentrated as what came before, and that would be the tails. Okay. So when they were formulating from Chichicapa to get something else, Chichicapa sits around 47 to 48%.
Okay.
Depending on the production that time. Well, the way it's taxed is, it's taxed for each point of alcohol you have. Okay. So to get a lower price, you need to prove down. But they do not believe in adding water to their mezcal.
Okay.
So what Faciano figured out was, if I let my stills run a little bit further and get some of that tail, that's still mezcal.
Right.
But now we're also proofing down because that's not the hard cut.
Okay.
And now we have a more developed flavor that's going to come off the still at 42%.
Okay.
So that's how we got to here. It's still fully mature agave, 6 to 8 years. And I love that we call ourselves single village mezcal, because as we get into our single villages, all the mezcal is coming from one unique place. So as you think any wine terms that you have, terroir, all of that stuff, very, very, very interchangeable with mezcal.
Okay, so each of these are different villages these are coming from?
Correct. These are from two same maker, but two completely different villages.
Okay.
Now, these two are coming from the same place, but different production processes. We're going to get into that one next.
All right, very cool.
So this one, I love. If you want your smoke a little bit more pronounced, you see how it sits a little bit heavier on the palate.
Definitely heavier.
Now you might get some baking spices. You might get some a little bit of clove, maybe. You definitely get the orange and citrus peel. Mm-hmm. And from there, I like to say there's no wrong flavor.
Exactly.
It's you taste what you taste.
That's right.
And so that's why I always encourage people, just, yell out what you, because sometimes I'll pick out a different note because someone else tasted something, and then I can go try to find it.
I'm sure every time you try it, you find something new.
Correct.
That's which is the best part about it in general. It's always cool.
I want to call it the best homework in the world.
Absolutely.
So, you have these really cool notes. So now what happened is you have a much more economical bottle of mezcal that we can now serve, and that can now be in the well in restaurants and bars. And that's really what helped our brand take off. Was our emissaries, our hospitality guardians that started sharing their love for mezcal with their guests that came in.
Yeah, that's very cool.
So as they traversed the United States, going from restaurant to restaurant, bar to bar, sharing the juice, now the love began. And, like, for instance, I can only be in one place at one time.
That's true.
But if whoever I try shares that with one or two other people, now there's more fans.
We might do that here.
Yeah.
There might be an entire educational facility. It's exactly what happens on a daily basis here.
Yeah, man. So it's really cool, man. It's really cool because sharing something that we got has a lot of history, has a lot of dynamic qualities about it itself. It's really cool that I constantly get to rediscover the reason I love this brand through my interactions with other people.
Absolutely. That's what makes alcohol in general fun.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike and Tia Green, good you guys just getting the mezcal. Awesome. Well, when we have our master class here next month or so, come down here and learn all about these.
Yeah,
and taste them, which would be even better part.
No, that's the best part.
That is definitely the best part.
Getting to taste them. So what's really cool is that all the families that have joined Del Maguey over the past 30 years, because March 14th, 1995.
Okay.
Which kind of feels weird that that's 30 years ago.
Yeah, it's scary, right?
But that is in and of itself
terrifies you.
A different conversation for another time. We're having a good time.
That's right.
But March 14th, 95, this mezcal hit.
Okay.
And so been making fans ever since. And all the families that we consider our production partners have never left.
Wow.
They've stayed with us because we get our mezcal directly from them, and the money they've received from these partnerships have enabled them to not just, have a reliable source of income,
Which is very
but
important.
also bettering their place in the world.
Absolutely.
So really, really cool to see, it be a very healthy relationship because, you look at anyone's marriage. If they've been married for 30 years, they might like each other.
They generally tend to, that does help.
Well, it helps. It helps a lot. So that's, to me, the coolest part. And the part is like they tell us what they can sustainably produce.
Okay.
So we don't have like these hard quotas, because a lot of times, some folks say, well, big bad corporate's here, and now it's time to squeeze for the money.
Yeah, it's no fun.
So in this way, they're able to sustainably produce a consistent product, while being mindful of how that will impact their.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you don't have enough to plant for later, it's going to be a serious problem. No more product.
Because just like wine, right? We everyone loves to get their bottle of wine, and anytime I serve a bottle of wine, the first thing people do is they look at the name and they immediately go to look at the year, because that year tells us a lot. How much rain it had, how much sun. Because we know that is all a big part of what we taste. Mm-hmm. So what I love to tell people is our youngest expression that we're tasting now, 6 to 8 years in the ground, how much more terroir are you tasting over that increased amount of time?
Sure, absolutely.
So you're really tasting like a moment in time, which I think is pretty cool.
That is really cool.
And with that, you have so much going on because we do open air fermentation.
Okay.
So in pine vats, it depends. If it's cooler, they'll cover it. It has to go longer. If it's warm, they'll add more water, because there's a sweet spot, and that's really where art meets science. So here's the coolest part. To me, and this still blows my mind. I'm sure you've been to your share of distilleries, and they have all sorts of scientific ways on how to tell what the proof is.
Right, yeah, they get the hydrometers, yeah.
I'm
assuming they do not have those there.
They do not. They do not. So the palenqueros will get the jícara. It's like a emptied out gourd.
Okay.
It's used, bowl, cup, what have you. And they'll take the pull, drop it from a certain way.
Okay.
And because of the saponins that exist in mezcal agaves in particular, it creates a certain type of bubble once the air hits it and it hits the gourd. How fast or slow and the size of the bubbles in that gourd tells them what the proof is.
Oh, that's wild. Okay.
How
the hell did they find that one out? Because that's normal. So now let's see what the bubbles do.
I'm telling you. So like they will go like this, and they look at it and it's like, that's 48%. And if you tested it, it's 48%.
That's crazy.
That to me blows my mind.
Yeah,
like the level of computational power that is in these folks' brains to be able to do something like that, to me,
that's cool.
I can't get over it. I cannot get over it.
That's wild.
I'm telling you. So it's like just little stuff like that,
Okay.
What's also cool about open air fermentation is it adds another layer of flavor that is unique to that area.
Now, do you guys use like a wild yeast that's just from that area, or
it just exists?
Just whatever's in the air.
Whatever's in the air.
Okay, very cool.
So the cool part about that is, let's say that we're tasting Classico, right? So let's say we had one palenque making Classico at its traditional. I think it's at around 893 feet or so.
Okay.
Here, and let's say we go up 300 feet.
Okay.
Those mezcals can taste radically different, even if the whole step is the same. Even the same type of agave. Wow. Because the ambient yeast and bacteria that exists changes every 300 feet, whether you go up or down.
Interesting. That's wild.
I'm telling you, there's so much biodiversity in this category. Cool. It's crazy. There was one crop that got done, and that year there was a lot of roses nearby. And so when people tasted them, they say like, well, why is this so floral? And that's just, man, we had a lot of roses this year.
That's cool.
Yeah. We also have another expression called las milpas. Okay. So milpas was a type of agriculture system used forever and ever. Okay. So, you go and you have those stair steps to basically have irrigation.
Right.
And they would plant agave along the edges because as the root systems connected, it created that barrier that kept you from losing your topsoil.
Oh, okay.
But within that section, you'd also plant squash, corn, that whole idea, that whole system of agriculture is Las Milpas.
Okay.
So Las Milpas with us, that agave, that palenque is situated around a lot of corn.
Okay.
And do you know? And this is one of the expressions I'm going to bring for the class.
All right, that sounds fun.
This expression, if you blindfold take, you would think, you're like, what is this light? Is this light whiskey? Is this Irish
that's
whiskey?
wild.
Just on the nose, like it's like a flirtation of Irish whiskey, but that's simply coming from the fermentation, open air, because there's a lot of corn around.
Okay, that's wild.
Yeah, man, I'm
That's
telling
really
you, yeah,
cool.
you get into it.
Man, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Good. At least nice streaks in the glass. Means you know you're doing it right.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. 42%. We'll get some legs. We'll get some legs for sure.
Wow, that 42 you get. That's wild.
So now this one is really cool. As you see, it has the little skeleton on it. And if we mirrored that, you'll see it says Vida de Muertos. So this typically was made October around the time of the
Day of the Dead.
As a celebratory mezcal, but
okay.
it used to be only 1,000 cases a year.
Oh my gosh, that was a super limited edition. All right.
But got popular enough to where they started ramping up production. Now, this is the same distiller that we've been tasting so far.
Okay.
Same Espadín, except this one is only made with the ripest agave of the harvest. So sometimes if they're harvesting for Classico, for instance, you're like, oh, this one, like your banana, right? This one's got a couple brown spots on it. We're going to set that aside for this one.
Okay.
So the Brix content is higher.
Okay.
For those that don't know what Brix is, BRIX, that is how you measure sugar content in anything.
Okay.
So you'll have the Brixometer, and you put a little drop on there and you look at it and it tells you how much sugar it is depending on where the level goes.
Interesting.
For a point of reference, simple syrup is 50 on the Brix level because it's equal parts sugar and water.
Okay.
This one is, as it's harvested, is at least 30.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
So you get this nice sweetness that's coming naturally, because I know a lot of questions come up with, any agave brands. It's like, are you adding any additives? Is there anything like that? And this was built into the mantra, the ethos of this brand, which is we are distilling it as it is and putting it in the bottle for you to taste.
Perfect.
The agave, the producer is the star of the show, not anything we're doing afterwards.
Okay.
So
awesome.
We like to call it art in a bottle. So this one now, because this is a more dedicated hearts cut, this one is going to be 45%, simply as to where the cuttings are coming from. But for me, on the palate, while it does have a little bit more weight, a little bit more depth and how it feels on the palate, it actually, for me personally, drinks lighter than the Classico. Interesting. Which is weird because we went 3 points up.
Right.
And because of that extra ripe agave, you get a really almost like a creamy note. And I had to, coming onto the brand, I asked if this was, any kind of ancestral method used, because I got almost like some really light kind of baby creamy notes on here. And they're like, no, this is just how it's made. Still copper pot distilled.
Super creamy.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, and so this one I would love I love drinking this one just neat, like not even ice.
Sure.
But if you have like Manhattan fans, this works very well as a mezcal Manhattan.
Interesting.
In my very humble drinking opinion.
There you go. You ever made an old fashioned out of it?
1,000%.
I bet that's delicious too.
It's amazing. I like to use, but instead of simple syrup, I like using agave.
Oh yeah, I prefer agave too.
And when doing agave, as I found over the years, you want to cut your agave with a little bit of distilled water. Distilled because you don't want to add any other volatile flavors.
Sure.
So I like 7 parts agave, 3 parts water.
Okay.
And just room temp, shake it up, As soon as it gets even, you got it, because then you've lowered the Brix level of the agave, so it's not as potent.
Sure.
So you still get your sweetness,
Okay.
what you're looking for, but it's not going to be cloying.
Right. Okay, makes sense.
So a little bit of agave. So for me, I would do 2 ounces of this.
Okay.
1/4 ounce of that agave syrup we talked about.
Okay.
And then your favorite bitters. I find that I like to go a little heavier on the orange bitters.
Okay.
And still like maybe a dash of the Ango, just to, you know, that traditional backbone that we know and love. But, you know, like bitters are the spice rack of the bar. So your favorite bitters work. Any kind of citrus bitters work really well. But again, you can't go wrong because
there's so many bitters out there.
There's so many bitters. Like if you can name a flavor, there's a bitter that exists.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. We were up in Wisconsin at a bar. They drink more bitters there than the entire continent of Australia, this little island, because during Prohibition, guess what you can get? Bitters. So
because it's medicinal.
Yeah, it's medicinal. So they were drinking. Literally, they would buy 5-gallon buckets of bitters. This place would just drink bitters. And so to this day, they started this bar in 1898. This place is still there. You put your finger in the bitters, and they have this book they've been keeping that you have a thumbprint in bitters into this book. It's amazing.
Man, that's so cool.
And it's like, why do you have so many? It's like, oh, you don't understand. We're the bitter capital of the world. I'm like, oh, apparently. And it's in this little island of 900 people up in Wisconsin. It's wild.
They're getting it in.
They are getting it in. I'm like, all right, that's insane bitters. But
which is funny because in Wisconsin, you have stuff on the other side that's super sweet, like the brandy old fashioned.
Right, yeah, which I never heard until I went up there. I'm like, brandy in your old fashions? Oh, that's unique. But they are good. I did enjoy them.
I can tell you, I went in to taste that. I was at a fish fry. A friend took me to my first Friday fish fry.
Nice.
During spring.
Okay.
So everything's bustling, green. It looks like a Disney movie. Like every birds are chirping, bees are buzzing, flowers are blooming. So we go to this fish fry.
Okay.
And you're like, you want a brandy old fashioned? I'm like, yeah, I'll take one. She goes, you want it sour or sweet? I'm like, what are you talking about? I want a brandy old fashioned. I don't understand what are these extra questions.
Yeah, right. So
I deferred to sweet. And I saw them making them, and I was like, that is an abomination.
It's an abomination.
Because, I went there, very, hoity-toity. Like, there's only one way to do things, right?
Sure, that's fun.
So I tasted it, and it was like, I went, okay, complete judgment.
Yeah.
And then I just kept tasting the old-fashioned until it was gone.
I guess you liked it.
I loved it, man.
Oh,
and that was such a good lesson for me to just don't judge anything until you try it.
Oh yeah,
just try
fun.
it.
No just try it. From. Exactly, just try it.
So I am a huge fan of the Wisconsin brandy old fashioned.
Very cool.
I love them.
That was good. So
now we get to like a little treat that I brought for today.
Which I'm excited. This very cool looking.
So in Oaxaca, we have several of our SKUs that have unique woven baskets. They're hand woven.
Okay.
And on the other ones, there are patterns and colors that indicate something unique about where they come from.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
So one has like red and green.
Okay.
Symbolizing the red rolling hills and the green, vegetation that's around. One has blue stripes because it's right by the river.
Makes sense.
So indicates the water content. And I look because I always forget how high up this is. So this is Tobala.
Okay.
And this is a wild mezcal. So this is not cultivated.
Okay.
So folks have to go out and find these.
Oh, wow.
And you get enough of them, then you can make a batch.
Okay.
What makes this really cool is that the Brix on this, like we talked about, is a little bit higher.
Okay.
So sweeter, but because of their size, they actually have less juice than traditional. So they're probably about yay big.
Okay.
Which is much different than, like, I'm sure if you've seen any kind of agave harvest videos where they're
large.
Huge, you can get up to 200-300 pounds.
Yeah, big things.
Really big guys. And this ones are much smaller. But because they're wild, and these are in the ground no less than 12 years.
Wow.
All the way up to 18.
Holy crap.
Yes, this thing can you don't get a driver's license.
Yeah, for real.
That thing, but this is 8,500 feet up. It's one of the highest points in elevation.
Okay,
yeah, so 8,500 feet up, which again lends to a very unique microclimate.
I would think so.
And again, a much different yeast and bacteria, ambient yeast and bacteria
Sure.
that exists up here, as opposed to some of our more lush, semi-arid, semi-tropical climates. And the way this one is made is actually really, really cool.
All right.
So first, I would love for you to taste in our Glencairns,
Okay.
as we've been tasting.
Ooh, that smells amazing.
So what he does is, he'll get the agaves, they'll roast them,
Okay.
and then they'll sit instead of being immediately going into production.
Okay.
Sometimes that can be up to, so sometimes he'll actually leave them in that roasting pit for 30 days. So the fire dies out.
Crap.
It's no longer hot.
Yeah.
But what this does is it brings them down, and after a certain amount of time, a natural pre-start fermentation happens within the fruit.
Interesting.
Before they're even crushed and they experience the more traditional pine vat open air fermentation. So that lends to a completely new layer of flavor.
Okay.
Just from that step before we actually get into the crushing, the production, letting it sit over time. So it has an extra go, which I think is really cool.
What's the proof on this one?
Yeah, this is 45.
Okay.
45. I was thinking of Chichicapa still, which is 48.
Oh, that's vastly different.
Yeah. And this is coming from Santa Maria Albarradas, so way high up in the mountains.
It's almost got gin botanicals. This is it's going all over the damn place. Holy crap.
And you said it, that's the best description, because what you're tasting now is strictly coming from that agave and open air fermentation.
Oh my gosh.
There's nothing else in this bottle except agave, water, and yeast. That's it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really good and just fascinating. That's a wild product.
Yeah.
I like it. Hey, Andy, so Kitty can see you guys. Andy loves some mezcal. Well, this is good. Have you had this one yet, Andy? That's the real question. If not, you should come to class. You can come learn and try it.
Yeah, well, I'll be sure to have some on deck. And thankfully, our distribution partners work together. So now we've gotten some more deliveries, because this is a very limited production.
Okay.
Because since it's wild and the extra time it takes to produce, there's only a certain amount that gets made every year.
Absolutely.
It varies,
right?
But it is much more limited production
than
the other three that we tried. But I will be sure to have a bottle on deck for class, because
cool.
I love sharing this. My friend who I work with, Evan Maker, this is his favorite.
Okay.
And his love for it actually got me to really appreciate this even more.
Okay.
Because before I enjoyed it, but then he told me all those little tidbits that I shared with you, and I was like, okay, that's really cool. That's really cool. And I know we're excited, we're talking about it, but this is something that you have to experience for yourself. I can talk about it, but you really have to experience this depth of flavor that is coming from 3 ingredients.
Yeah, which is wild.
And time, right?
Yeah, and time, obviously.
Time in the ground. But now I would love for you to try side by side.
Okay.
So traditionally, you would use a copita. This one was gifted to me from Mitch Murray at the Midnight Rambler bar in
very cool.
downtown Dallas, Texas, the basement bar of the Jewel Hotel. Coming from Marcelo, who has a shop in the Cedars in Dallas. And if you look and just see that super unique color here.
It's really cool.
So that's all coming from his kiln process. I'm not going to attempt to explain how they get those colors.
It's really beautiful. However,
all I know, it's beautiful. That's
let's go with it.
That's what I'll say.
We'll go with that.
So because of the wider aperture of the copita, you're going to get different flavor notes.
Okay.
Because you're going to be smelling different notes on this. So I would love for you just to tell us what you taste And what's the difference
We got
between
glass.
what you just had?
This is pottery.
Correct.
I've never had anything out of pottery, to be really honest with you. It should be interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, it smells nothing alike. Everything, of course, is contrary with the Glencairn.
Uh-huh.
Super clean on the pottery.
So now I see you smelling. I want you to leave your mouth open when you're smelling. Because that way the air will hit the back of your palate and it gives your brain even more information.
It's super floral now.
Yes. Yes.
I'm trying to think what kind of flower that would be.
For some crazy reason, I get chrysanthemum and I don't know why.
Yeah, okay, I could see that. That maybe like a carnation, something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy how different that is. I still it tastes different.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it really accentuates it. It gets really earthy. I'm sure it's from the clay. That's really cool.
Mm-hmm. So when we do our class, we're actually going to be tasting out of some copitas that folks will get to take home with them.
Oh, very cool.
So
yeah, that's like a totally different product out of that.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
This is not a fancy good, but I do like smoke. You'll be open to mezcal, but like all 3 available in local stores. Yeah, that's rough, dude. You've only got 3 available. And the good thing about being in Texas is we have like entire shelves now of mezcal, which is awesome.
Yeah, it helps when you're next door to where they makes it a little easier.
It does help. Yeah, I forget what state you're in, Sugar City, but I'm guessing not Texas.
Get at post stream Sugar Kitty. If you would like to send me some of your information, I can try to point you in the right direction to where you can get your hands on some of this. I'll try to track some down for you.
We're gonna figure that out today, Andy. We're gonna figure out what it's gonna be.
Yep.
I can't believe how vastly different this is out of here.
I had never had them side by side like this. So, celebrating the brand, BCB Bar Convent Brooklyn. Okay. It's a huge bar trade show that happens in Brooklyn once a year. We just had it last week. We were walking with one of the founders, co-founders, Steve Olson, and we just happened to have a little Stigi Bayou moment. I'm going to tell you what that is.
Okay.
And I had just had it in glass, and then I sipped out of the copita. I was like, wait, because I never had them side by side.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't notice how vastly different they were until just a week ago.
That's wild. That's cool.
I was like, holy crap, because normally I'm doing a class that's either all copita
sure.
or it's all glass, right? And the flavor notes are similar enough to where it's not like, oh, why does this? But having had one small sip and then another sip in clay, I was like, oh, this is a huge thing.
Yeah. Man,
that's something I'm going to be underlining.
Now those other things you got to put in the holy crap, that's really cool. That is wild.
Yeah, man.
New Jersey is where he's at.
Okay,
well, they have things in New Jersey.
Yeah, they got things in New Jersey, and I have friends in New Jersey, so I'll text them here this evening so we can figure out where you can go to try some of the different expressions, so you can enjoy the trip down Delicious Lane yourself.
Yeah, I think you'd really, if you like peated scotch, I think you're going to really enjoy this. It tastes nothing like tequila at all. Like, to be honest, you really don't even know you're drinking agave. It's just so different because, most agave is much sweeter. This is all smoky. But yeah, that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't believe how vastly different these are. This is wild.
But it's moments like this that really help me enjoy and really just truly relish what I do.
Yeah, this is cool as shit.
Because that excitement is how I felt. Like how you feel right now is exactly how I felt, and you're taking me back to how I felt when I discovered this. So it's really cool, man. It's really cool. So we have a traditional toast. Given Zapotec, the word is Stigi Bayou.
Okay, what is that?
So all together, STIGIBEAU, Stigi Bayou.
Okay.
So that's their traditional Zapotec toast.
Okay.
So like, say cheers or salute. So to your health, but they really don't have that term for to your health. So what
Okay.
it translates to is to our health.
Yeah. Okay.
To your family's health and to the health of Mother Earth, right? To the health of this planet, this beautiful planet that we all live and share, right? So living on this rock, they're not making any more land, so we got to take care of.
True.
We got to take care of what we have, and so when you talk about, we want to treat the land as well as we can, so that it's a healthy relationship.
Absolutely.
Stijube is what we say to include everything coming before us and what is to follow, but much more to keep us in the present. So I would love to say Stijube to you, my friend.
Stijube. That is ridiculously delicious and vastly different.
Yeah.
I don't understand how that works. That's
I like, now that I'm back in town, like I want to sit down and like talk with some people that are much smarter than I am.
Yeah, it's like I want to know the science of how this works.
I need to know. Like I need to know
what magic is in this thing.
Yeah, I need to know. So that's a huge question mark that I'm looking forward at pulling the thread on.
I mean, that's wild.
Yeah, and so another thing that I like to say is these folks that have entrusted me, these producers that trust me to talk about what amounts to their generational life.
Sure.
I'm truly humbled and honored that I have the opportunity to share their stories, to share their legacy.
Absolutely.
And I really hope that anytime people get to try any of these SKUs at all, that you recognize that this is fully mature agave, because sometimes people harvest earlier because they're ready to make money.
Right.
There's no additives, and that these are processes that have been passed down for over generations. So you talk about your grandma's favorite recipe, right? Well, think your great grandmother.
The ones you never thought of. No, there's even a picture available.
Right.
It's how long it's been around.
Yeah, and so and now I get to share these stories and share this delicious product, with the world, which is why it truly is, liquid art. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah,
it's so cool. I love the stories. It's fascinating. So if somebody now, how many products do those guys make in totality?
So currently, 20.
Holy crap! Okay, that's way more than I was expecting. It's gonna be
some are more
7 or 8.
Some are more rare. Some are more rare than others. Like we have our Pechuga, which is a style. So remember I told you about those two first mezcals that came in, Chichicapa and Minero?
Yeah.
So Minero is twice distilled. So once a year during harvest time, they'll take the Minero, and it's very celebratory because in a farming community, like harvest is all of your work.
Yeah, absolutely.
To this moment.
Right.
So they'll take the Minero, and in the still where they'll put the Minero, they'll add rice, they'll add pineapples, they'll add harvested mountain apples, lots of spices.
Sounds fun.
And they'll hang a seasoned chicken breast in the still. So as the alcohol travels up, as it, it passes through that and gets some of those umami notes before it condenses back into liquid.
Sounds delicious.
It is very delicious.
Sounds very good.
We had a chef, Jose Andres. Lots of folks know him. Very famous chef from Spain.
Okay.
Well, in Spain, they're renowned for their Iberico ham.
Okay.
So he said, "Have you ever done with Iberico?" And they're like, "No." So he's like, "Well." They say, "Well, let's try it."
Sure.
So now there's an Iberico expression as well.
Oh, very cool.
Now that one is even harder to find.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
So another thing I like to highlight is anytime that you'll see any of our products that might be a little bit more expensive or more rare, it's not that we make a bunch and store it in a warehouse.
It's just what
it's because it literally is what got made last year. So last year, less than 250 bottles of Pechuga were made.
Oh my gosh.
For the world.
Super small.
Yeah. So very limited run, right? Because it's harvest time. They're making a limited amount. What gets made is made. It's shipped out to the world, and that's it.
Very cool.
So you have like expressions like that are rare. Next, you'll have expression like the Tobala, which is rare just because this is a wild agave.
Yeah, you make what you
So
get.
you make
Yeah,
what you can
sure.
find, and you don't want to take it all because we still want the biodiversity. We still want these things
Right.
producing, and because once you have stuff like clones exist, well, you lose your biodiversity, but
Yeah.
you lose your safety.
Oh yeah, and then you lose your flavor.
You lose your flavor.
and then
You lose your safety.
And
net.
now
It gets
you can't.
sick.
Yeah, and then you can't make anything anymore.
Yeah,
it's bad
now
news.
your whole crop is torched, and you
Yeah.
have to wait another 8 years.
Oh god,
Yeah,
that's terrifying.
gasp. Double.
Yeah,
gasp.
yeah, really in trouble at that point. That's scary.
Yeah, so some we have limited runs simply because the agave that is available sustainably is less. So
Sure.
then you have stuff like that. But then we do have other lines where it is a lot easier. Production is a little higher because in these regions, the type of agave, so it's espadín.
Okay.
So espadín we consider like our control,
Okay.
where we say if we put espadín here, our producers,
Okay.
if espadín grows here, it's going to taste this way. But in this village, they grow espadín, it's going to taste like this.
Okay.
So you really get to taste, and you could tell anybody as much as I could how different these three taste.
Sure, like they're vastly they're the same. You can tell they're the same but very different at the same time.
Correct.
It's like the same artist made these, but they don't taste. They're very different at the same time.
Yeah.
It's fun to see them blind and see which one do you like the most.
Yeah. So like agave Augustifolia would be its Latin scientific name. So
Okay.
that's that one. And so what's really cool
Very
is
cool.
you have that one, and that one's the easier one to produce. It's very hardy, very
Okay.
strong. A lot of cultivation. Like you don't really find too much wild espadines now.
Okay.
It is the most common produced mezcal.
Okay.
But in and of itself, you see there's variations of flavor
Yeah,
just
yeah.
by making minor tweaks
Absolutely.
within either where it's coming from or in the production process itself.
How far apart are these villages?
So these
like-
are produced in the same distillery, the two on the right.
Okay.
And the one in there, I don't know the difference, but so it would be Axocopan, Puebla is
Okay.
the city and state. And then these are coming from Oaxaca, the other
Okay.
two on the right.
So within like a couple hundred miles or
Maybe.
further? Maybe.
You know, let's
Let's find out.
let's find
There's this
out.
cool thing called Google.
yeah.
Let's
I'm about to look
imagine
it up.
that. It's amazing. Andy's got some Colombian finish in mezcal cast. That sounds fun. So you got taking smoky peated scotch and put it in a smoky mezcal. That sounds like a lot of fun. I'd like to try that. That sounds delicious. I have option paralysis of so many mezcals now. I can see that being a problem. Let's see. That's why you come to class to learn which one you like.
There you go.
Problem is solved. Or if you like them all, buy them all. That's the other solution. And then depending on the day and how you feel, drink that one.
Okay, let's see what they got for me. Ba-ba-ba-ba.
Oh, and even going back to the empty glass is wild.
So approximately 208 miles.
Okay, so they're pretty far apart. Okay, so they're not super close.
Mhm. So between this one and these two.
Okay, but those. Okay. Okay, now I get on this like a smoked plantain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
On the
Yeah.
on the empty.
Yeah.
Oh man, this must be awesome with like Brazilian food. This must be amazing. Like
Ooh.
you go to like what are those? Like Texas Day Brazil type,
Uh-huh.
but with the local ones that I prefer.
Yeah.
It's not the champ chains.
Yeah.
There's a family one we called Rancho Federal. It's a great place up in Bedford. That's really, really good stuff up there.
Oh man, you just gave me some delicious homework.
Oh yeah, this would be awesome with oh. Wow. Yeah, that's pretty great. I like this plan. This is a really good plan.
All right.
Oh yeah, so that really awesome. What's that? It starts with a C. The specific Brazilian cut that's kind of like a C.
Oh,
What's that
is it
called?
Cordero? No.
No, it's another name. What the heck is that one? Picanha.
Oh yes.
Yes, with picanha.
Yes.
That'd be amazing.
Man, I have never.
Oh, you got to do. I love Brazilian food. So
I have
good.
never thought of having mezcal with
It'd
that
be
type of
amazing.
cuisine.
Like especially if you took like your lineup and you had it's a little bit of each one,
Yeah.
and then depending on the meat that's coming to see how it tastes with each meat, I think it'd be fascinating.
Man, that sounds.
I like this one.
I
It's a
got
good
some
plan.
good homework now. I got some good homework now, man.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. So I could also talk about bring your product into those places. To have
Oh well,
them do
yeah,
it,
yeah. That's
So it's fun both ways.
yeah. It's a 360 plan of deliciousness.
There you go. Meat and mezcal. You can't go wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they're both using elements of fire to cook
Yeah,
them,
absolutely.
So you get to taste how the layered
Ooh, that
layered
would be
flavor.
Fun.
Yeah,
I like this plan. It's a really good plan.
sounds good, man. That was very good.
What else should people know about you guys?
We work directly within the villages. I think the coolest story
Okay.
that I've learned since joining. So, and when one of the producers, he got his first check for his production.
Okay.
He said, the kids in this village are not going to be walking 45 minutes each way to go to school anymore. We're going to put a school right here in the village.
Very cool.
Right? So his daughter was one of the first group of kids that got to go to the in-village school.
Awesome.
Right? So she
That's
goes,
great.
she graduates high school, goes off to law school,
Holy crap.
becomes a native rights lawyer,
Oh, that's cool.
comes back, and was part of the negotiating team for the current contract we have with our producers.
Very cool.
So you want to talk about a closed loop
For real, right?
of really cool
That's
stuff.
really cool.
It's things like that. We have mobile unit because some of these places are extremely remote. I think,
yeah, you were telling me going on some crazy dirt road.
Yeah, so like a lot of these places, you go and it's a journey to get to some of these palenques, and because of the remote nature, they don't have just access to a lot of the things like we take for granted, right? Like if you want to go to the dentist, you just literally Google dentist,
right,
and you go to whichever one you think you want to go to. So they don't have access to just things that we take for granted like that. So partnered up with different folks that will actually go to the villages.
Oh, very cool.
To provide
Awesome.
that sort of health care, so just things like that. So we really
Nice.
we're working with different sustainability programs.
Okay.
We have nurseries that we're working with to keep the biodiversity of the more rare wild mezcals.
Okay.
So cultivate them while cultivating them, letting them fully mature
Okay.
to keep that biodiversity, right? Because
Sure.
So with agave, you have a skillet that grows from the center of the agave core up to be
Okay.
pollinated,
Okay.
but the plants expend a lot of energy and resources to be able to do that. So
Okay.
when you're in tequila, they'll chop those off so all those sugars stay in the core. But when you're dealing with wild agaves, that naturally happens.
Sure.
But that means it takes even more time. But letting that take time means that the biodiversity for the next plant is a variation, not a direct clone.
So each one's a little bit different.
So each one's a little bit different.
That's very cool.
So working with them to keep, the biodiversity within the category, working with our producers, again, like to underline that we don't have quotas for them. They produce what they sustainably can.
Sure.
And we get to drink the benefits
That's not a bad thing at all.
of that. Yeah.
So you're I know kind of like so there's like vintages of wine essentially.
Mhm.
Have you compared like vintages of different mezcals to kind of see what the different flavor profiles are?
I got to try. It's funny. I was in this liquor store. I wish I could tell you where it was, but I found a bottle that they had like way in the back. It was a Chichicapa, and it was the first time I saw one at the store with the basket.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, hey, I was like that. And so on the side of the bottles here, where is it at? Yeah, along here, it will tell you. You'll have a sticker along the lines of here as well. You'll have the date, the production date.
Very cool.
And so that one was, I want to say, like 5 years older than what was currently in market anywhere.
Wow.
Here's
That's
what's
cool.
nuts is that it tasted almost the same. Which when we go into discussing how much variation
and this the one you think is gonna be different, it's not.
and it was very, very similar.
That's
And I was
wild.
like, to get something to taste similar, with all these
Yeah.
variables, I think is truly a testament to the craft
Absolutely.
and the intelligence of these folks that are
Yeah.
producing the mezcal.
That's
It's really cool.
wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if like the conditions from whatever those 5 years ago was, those conditions are similar, and just interesting to see what you'd have to obviously go look at the research of that. But that'd be fascinating to find out.
I think too is like, when you go for longer, then you don't really suffer from like a 1 or 2 off years
because you've got
because you spread out the time.
That makes sense too.
So you spread out the time. So that in of itself, I found to be really fascinating. That helped me have a deeper appreciation for using fully mature agave,
Sure.
because now you've allowed it fully developed. So now not only is it a tasting of this time, but if, for instance, you do have maybe a rougher year than most,
Sure.
you still have a consistent product. But what's crazy is agaves are very hardy plants.
Yeah.
Like they exist. Like these are not irrigated fields. They get water.
Oh.
They get water when it rains.
Okay. Did not know that. That's
Yeah.
cool.
So, and they have these carbs in them. How they store is like in this gel like carb within the plants that
All
let
right.
them use this water even when
Yeah.
it's not raining. But because of those chemical compounds, it leads to having less of an impact on someone's sugar, their blood sugar levels when they drink them.
That's interesting.
Because I was with a friend of mine who's diabetic, and she has like the port reader on, and after she had a couple shots, like she literally showed me after the class how it was actually like 1 point down because she hadn't eaten yet.
Wow.
That's so, and that's like something I saw for myself. It's, I had read it before.
Yeah, I'd heard that.
But I never like seen the proof in the pudding.
That's
like
cool.
right there live in the
That's
moment.
cool.
And I was like, that's really crazy. So if you've ever how should I put this? Enjoyed the night to its full.
Yeah.
And you've only drank mezcal.
Okay.
The way your body handles it is readily digestible in our bodies a lot easier than other spirits.
Interesting.
So let's just say the nights that I fully enjoyed where I really didn't have to pay the piper the next day.
That's a good thing.
Which is always a good thing.
Oh, yeah, right. Especially the older you get, that's really important.
Oh, yeah, man. I'm not 22 anymore. So
life is too short to drink terrible things.
No, yeah.
I drink good things, like you said. The results, you're fine the next day.
Yeah, exactly, And that's just a testament to it, being a very well-made product.
Absolutely.
That's, truly product of the earth.
Yeah,
itself.
It's great. Well, I appreciate it. This was great.
Man, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Hope everybody learned some stuff here.
Yeah.
Appreciate, like I said, you guys come out when he's back in town. We will do a class and all that good stuff. And we can all try this and have a full room of people drinking this amazing mezcal. So it should be a good time. So,
all right. Cheers to that.
Cheers to that. And see you guys next time. Cheers.